Swanson. We're here with the one and only John Wedger for Crime Theory. And before we delve into all that, John, how are you? Where have you been? Right, people have been screaming out for their John Wedger fix. I know you've been all over the place. What you're up to?
It's been absolutely crazy. I've been non-stop, really non-stop. Things have got, I don't know, it's just gone up. It's just exploded. I'm off to Bosnia in a couple of days. I've been invited out there. Funny enough, by the Catholic Church invited me out to Bosnia to do some bits and pieces. So I'm going out to a town called Medjugorje for a few days. I'll be back end of the week. The interviews, just interviews everywhere. It's like I keep saying, the stuff that we've been talking about for the last few years, me for a more protracted period, is happening. It's actually unveiling in front of people's eyes now. And, I got called a conspiracy theorist and this, that, and the other, but it's actually what I said was going on and how it would culminate is becoming reality. It's becoming news.
Yeah, and listen, it's insane what's been popping up in the news. There's two cases that I want to talk with you about tonight. First of all, John, one of them's Jill Dando. She's popped back up in the news, and whenever she pops up, I always think about season 1 of our show, and the show that we did about that. I mean, it got tens of thousands of views. I just wanted to delve back into that. The other one is Virginia, the lady who outed Prince Andrew and Epstein. John, I hate to say this, but I've almost perfectly predicted everything that's happened to this woman. Her supposed self-unaliving, the way the media has been using headlines as a way to pacify people's opinions on this. If someone if a celebrity unalives themselves and then there's a headline that says family released last handwritten letter after self-unaliving, the majority of people are going to think that is the note that was left, if you see what I mean. And there's a lot of things where headlines seem to be being used for that demographic of people that just read a headline. They don't read the story. They're just scrolling. And opinions seem to be getting formed just off of these brief headlines. So I want to go into that too. But Jill Dando, right? Do you want to take people through, John?
I mean, Jill Dando will never go away because it's a bit like the Kennedy assassination. People don't believe the official narrative. And we have mentioned this before. And there's patterns. What you got when you investigate, you've got to look at patterns. And profilers, what they do is they look at patterns, geographical patterns. Behavioral scientists look at behavior patterns, narcissistic traits. They all go on a pattern. And the thing is that with people like what happened to Jill Dando, there is a pattern. It's a pattern emerging. We see the same thing. We see someone standing up and speaking out against tyranny, speaking out against abuse of children, organised groups doing it, well-placed groups doing it. And then we look at a murder. But then we look at who gets convicted. And we saw
First, before you go into that, John, just to clarify, Jill Dando was about to expose something, right? She was on the cusp of something. There's this whole theory that maybe she was about to blow the lid on Savile, right? Or something along those lines. And then she is, unalived on her front doorstep.
Yeah.
John, take us through the sort of textbook case of trying to pin it on someone, because that's basically what happened.
Right. Okay, so we look at a case that we covered on Crime Theory, that the murder of Leslie Mulseed, a young girl from, I think it was West Yorkshire, who just went missing. She was an underage, skinny, underdeveloped little girl that went to the shops as an errand, never seen again. And a few days later, she was found with stab wounds, multiple stab wounds in her back. And the police just covered it up. They claim that she could have gone and got a bus to London, and there's all sorts of stupid things that they come out with. And we saw the same thing happen in Belgium when 2 young children went missing, I think near Ostend, and they went missing in the middle of winter, no apparent reason, just running an errand. That was never seen again. And later they were turned up, their bodies were found. And the police came out with the theory that maybe the children had gone out looking to dig up some potatoes, and that they should be okay because if they get hungry, they can eat potatoes. Middle of winter, in sort of, heading towards Eastern Europe, and just people are meant to believe this. And Leslie Mulseed, there were quite a few suspects that were known to police. I couldn't, off the top of my head, sort of name them. I think, but one of them did crop up in the McCann case as being a transient PDF file who was sort of touring around Europe in a camper van, up to no good, and he was sort of on the scene of Leslie Mulseed's death and stuff like that. But they didn't deal with these people properly. They stitched up a guy called Stefan Kitsko, a mentally retarded, educationally subnormal individual who had sort of no previous with the police or anything else, and he got put away for 15 years in strange ways. If you're booted to, he got put away in strange ways prison for 15 years and was physically and mentally abused and tortured for near enough every single day of his false incarceration. But what happened was that the officer that orchestrated Kitsko's arrest and conviction was moved under a cloud and put in charge of the Yorkshire Ripper inquiry, which again he screwed that up. And there's a fantastic dramatisation based on this called Red Riding. And anyone, it's on Film 4 made it. Anyone who wants to know how satanic networks exist, how they're organised, how cover-ups are orchestrated, please watch Red Riding. It's a trilogy. And it's, bear with me one second.
Of course, mate, no problem. All right, guys, while you do that, John, if you guys can make sure you like and subscribe, give us some shares. John's channel is listed in the description below. Please make sure that you use it. At the end of today's stream, there's going to be a very large update for those who have been following the movement and the case that I've been working on. There is a sentencing happening on Wednesday and a very important piece of content concerning a human transportation family, some convictions, and some absolutely evil monsters. You know the type of people we're talking about. I need your help to spread this word. Make sure you're still here at the end.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Some lovely Indian neighbour brought down some beautiful food for me. So
nice.
Anyway, just some nice people about there. So let me get centred again. And we see the same algorithm of cover-up with Dando when they wrongfully convicted. I think he's applied for about, I think, a £1.6 million compensation award, which is yet to be proven in the High Court, and that's of Barry George, aka Barry Bulsara. And again, wrongfully convicted. We saw the same thing with Colin Stagg, who was stitched up for the murder of Rachel Nickel on Wimbledon Common, when the police had good information that actually a guy called Robert Napper, who was in the frame for the murder of another woman, similar circumstance, called Jacqueline Blissett. And Robert Napper went to the police station and said, I've done another one. There is another one I've done. And his mother even went into the police station Plumstead and said, you need to arrest my son for this girl on the murder of the girl on Wimbledon Common, which was Rachel Nickel. And they didn't. They went and pursued Colin Stagg. And when we went through it on the first series, look at what happened when the call went in about the shooting of Dando and the address in Fulham, and something in the region of about 23 ambulances were dispatched, all double crewed, and the crime scene was a small, like postage stamp sized garden. And everyone trod all over it. So the crime scene was decimated straight away. So there was no initial crime scene, which is very imperative to any major investigation, is that initial crime scene. And that was gone. That was finished. Now, what all these bizarre things, and we're told that they're just oversights, they're just quirk of fates, nothing to see, move on. But when you put it all together, it stinks. I say to people, right, I got an analogy, women, if your husband gets a new job and he doesn't really drink, and then he starts drinking, and he comes home and he's late, and then he's late the next week, and then it goes on to 2 nights a week, and then he starts smelling a perfume. At what point are you going to turn around and say, this stinks, you're lying to me, what's going on? It wouldn't take long. Yet people
John, it's the fact that you would think if one of these cases got screwed up, the officers would be held accountable, but they seem to just be promoted, handed over to larger cases that they're there to screw up. It's an orchestrated ploy. There's no other way around it. There's no other way around it.
Well, this is one of the things. Funny enough, I did have a chat with Maggie Oliver the other day, and she's pushing for this new inquiry, and I sort of disagreed. We've known each other for many years, and we do have these discussions. I said, no, I think there should be an investigation, not an inquiry. And I think what they should be doing is looking for offences of malfeasance. Who were the decision makers? Who actually made these decisions? Not the officers that are ordered to carry this out on an action. Not them. Who actually signed this off? Who dispatched the people? Who were the decision makers? And who was overseeing them? And then start bringing them in and investigate them and start seeing patterns. Have they done this before? Have they been in charge of major inquiries where there's been many question marks? I mean, look, the Metropolitan Police has got a unit that no one really knows about. And funny enough, they used to be attached to the fraud squad for some reason, but their nickname was the Celebrity Squad. And anything to do with a high-profile public figure or royalty or anything like that, this hand-picked elite, so-called elite, there's nothing elite about these people, a little team would be brought in and they would take over these inquiries. And it was basically run in secret, and they sort of, were there to, I don't know what they did, but they were known as a Celebrity Squad. They weren't even part of the murder teams. Bye-bye. They weren't even part of that. They were part of the fraud squad, which is very odd and bizarre. But this is what they do. They roll these same people out all the time. They're trusted few. And you will see the same police mouthpieces coming up and giving their opinions. The same, you just got to watch them. You'll see the pattern. You'll see the same people. They'll always be highlighting a problem. They'll never be given a solution or never a viable solution. And I'm giving a solution. I'm saying, go back, do an audit trail, and find out who signed this off. Not the arresting officer.
Honestly, I think we need a new government. We need a whole new system, John. I think
people are just fed up of it, and the local elections have sort of really indicated that.
Oh yeah, I'm all for it, man.
They've had enough.
I'm all for it, bro. Like we need swift and precise action for this country.
Yeah.
I'm all for. I would literally let anyone have a bash at the next 4 years. Anyone at all. Don't, as long as it's not anyone from a party that's had a shot before. Any parties that have had a shot, I'm down for anyone, man. If Farage ends up winning, well, Farage ends up winning,
But if you look at the police force, right? So when I joined, it was those that were retiring back then had joined in the 60s, and they're police through the 70s and the 80s, and they were actually quite hard, tough, no nonsense individuals. They were people you shouldn't really be poking and prodding about because you're going to get whacked, and a lot of people did get whacked, and I witnessed a lot of people get whacked, and I whacked a few people myself, but they were brought in that way because that's what was needed. And that's what society demanded. But then reforms happened, and they bring that under the guise of race, equality, or whatever it might be. But you look at what they've done now. They turn around and they brought in the condition now that you had to be a graduate. And then you see the state of the police now, and they look like left-wing school teachers. because that is what they wanted to employ. They wanted to employ, these cord wearing, bearded, uh, lefty types, all nice and fluffy and equality and everything else. But you ended up with a police force which is not fit for purpose. It's absolutely atrocious. Police should not be social workers. They have social workers as social workers, right? Police should not be politicians. Politicians are politicians. The police should be society's bin men. And that's what they are. We're society's bin men. And that's what we have to be. And our build, our attitude should reflect that. And they should be physically tough, and they should have a hard mentality and a no-nonsense approach. But they've gone the other way. And it's just shambolic. So you will never get the same degree of stoic individual you once had. But when we look back at these travesties, such as the Rachel Nickel, and we look at Jill Dando and quite a few others that we've covered, if we look at the Met Police, you're going to see the same people involved, the same senior officers, the same. This is a pattern. This is what I keep saying. Look at it. And if you look at, the Masonic curses, if you reveal a secret, you're going to get your throat slit, your guts pulled out, and your tongue cut off, and everything else. If you reveal the secrets, well, what was she doing? Maybe she was revealing a secret. She was warned. Right. She thought it was probably a joke, that they wouldn't do it, but they did it. That's what I believe. I believe it was a calculate. Whether they say it was a Serbian mafia bloke or not, well, of course, if you're going to put out a hit, you're going to get a foreign national in to do it. And if the bullet,
100%. But here's our thing: do you think the foreign nationals involved could have been involved in criminality, where her outing whoever it was, or what could have messed up their transportation organization, as opposed to being a direct hit? I just want to say as well, John, our first episode on Jill Dando was almost 83,000 views. I just want to say it's.
I think. If you're using your own people to do it, you're bringing it on yourself a little bit. Get someone else in to do it. You look at organised crime in the United Kingdom. The Krays would use Glaswegian gangsters to do the hits for them, and they would send people up to Glasgow to do their hits. So I would say you use someone unconnected for it. And also, there's plenty of ex-military guys that's their game. They're snipers, they're professional hit. They've done it in a professional capacity. So this is business. And they've come over because they said it was a German small arm that was used by a Serbian mafia. Well, so what difference does it make? She was executed on her doorstep.
Well, here's another point, John, that you mentioned in the first show, which I found really hard to believe, because there was something interesting about the way the ambulance crews responded to this in Jill Dando's case, right? Usually something happens, an ambulance will turn up, but you were saying there was reports of dozens of ambulance crews and no control over where the evidence was, and people were just trampling all over everything. And clearly that seems to be by design, right?
Yeah, it just confused everything, isn't it? It's the initial response, which is very vital. That's the main evidence gathering opportunity. Yeah. They call it the golden hour, where the police get most of their evidence. They sort of start really putting the foundations of an investigation down. And it was messed up. It was frustrated. It was, so there was a conspiracy. Well, of course there was. There's a lot to lose here. And if we look at Savile, say, for example, Savile was an intelligence asset. Say Savile was an informant for the intelligence services, and he was there to procure young kids to apply foreign dignitaries or industrial espionage. I mean, I did a bit of contract work for a security firm that was run by ex-special forces guys. I worked with one fella. He introduced me to these people, and when I was in a lot of financial difficulty, they sponsored me to do some bits and pieces for them. And I was really, really impressed with them. They were highly professional and all that. But the guy who ran the outfit, he did a thing called industrial espionage, and it was mainly surveillance. And he said we follow around a target that comes into the country, and the last one was an oil oligarch, and the rival company wanted us to get some dirt on him. So we followed him around, and we tried to compromise him with a prostitute. And it sounds James Bond, but this is what these guys were
Yeah,
paid
of
to do.
course.
That was their
Yeah.
job. And I did a
Shaun,
couple of days surveillance with them, and they were bang on the button. They were highly professional. But he said, it's a dirty business. It's a dirty
yeah.
game, and we're the ones used to do it. So it does go on. I know it goes on. I've
What do
seen
you
it.
what do you think of this headline here? Facial mapping puts Serbian assassin in frame of first star's murder 25 years ago. Have you seen this image? Look at this. This is some filmed on a potato madness. So apparently this face here is this face here, right? And like,
Yeah.
where did they get this from?
It just so it
Is
just
this some
shows.
sort of like Tinder profile for Serbian assassins?
Right. So okay. So this is the face of the killer, right? And they're convinced it is. So why did they go and arrest some bloke who's borderline Downs,
Right?
and was mentally retarded? So why did they do him? And those that did stitch this guy up, what happened to them? What happened to the senior investigating
Motive.
team for the Dando inquiry? What happened to them? Nothing. Nothing happened to them. And it's the same as if you watch the documentary that was done on Colin Stagg, the Rachel Nickel murder. You watch the senior officer for that operation with the Met Police. He turns around after the court case in which Stagg is acquitted, and he said, well, it makes no difference to us. We will never investigate another person for it. We know he did it, right? He didn't do it. Yet this officer, I think he was a detective chief inspector, he went and got his pension. I bet he didn't get hauled over the coals. But his attitude, if he is the pinnacle of professionalism and experience for the Met Police, well, no one stands a chance. I don't even think they can even nick themselves shaving,
Yeah.
with this guy as a shining light, because he was clearly wrong in the light of information, right? That Robert Napper had already made moves to the police saying that he had done it. And he'd done an identical murder with a woman of Jacqueline Blissett. Yet this guy is stating no, and they adjunct provocateur Colin Stagg. They did it, and what happened to them guys? Nothing. And it's the same with the Diana inquiry. Like I keep saying, I knew a guy that was very, very sort of senior in the Diana inquiry, and he said anyone who thinks it's an accident is an effing idiot.
Yeah, but John, don't worry. 26 years later, they found an eyewitness. New Jill Dando murder revelations as fresh witness identifies notorious hitman. What?
Yeah, how's that happened then? Where's
they been mulling about? I mean, make that make sense to me. Just make that make sense to me, please, John.
Well, I don't know. I mean, how have they gone about that? Why is someone 26 years later? I mean, the continuity is off. The problems of the intelligence won't be there.
I mean, that's a hell of a brain buffer, John. We all have moments where we're in the middle of a sentence and our brain just deletes what we're saying, right?
Do you know,
26-year brain buffer seems a bit much.
What people fail to pencil in are the use of informants, right? And there's a thing in an investigation called primary and secondary disclosure, right? This is information that the police hold that can either undermine the prosecution case or it can assist the defense, right? And it's either sensitive or it's non-sensitive. Now, if you've got sensitive information which can damage the prosecution case and it can assist the defense, the police have to hand it over unless certain criteria is matched. And one of them could be an informant. And also there could be intelligence on Jill Dando that she had come to notice, or she had supplied information in the past about things, and they have withheld this for national security or for there's a whole plethora of reasons they can legitimately use to withhold that information. So what is needed is an investigation, a new investigation, a Home Office investigation, Lewis, and get hold of that disclosure that is caught around this, if it still exists, because it may well have been burnt, it may well have been shredded, but sensitive information goes onto a computer system, right? Goes onto an intelligence system, but that in itself is tiered, right? So you've got the low-level copper can put on intel, say Mr. Smith at number 26 is dealing drugs, right? And anyone can access that and see it, right? But if Mr. Smith is part of the intelligence service, or he's working for some national crime, organized crime operation, okay, it then goes up a level. So it then gets blocked from certain people. Only those on organized crime investigations can look at it. And then it might be that it's even more sensitive, and there's information that these different organised crime investigation units are leaking intel to each other and back to gangsters. So it gets narrowed down that only a certain section of that, and it gets narrower and narrower and narrower, right? And then when it gets to some of the stuff that I used to deal with, I used to go to an intelligence meeting and say, look, I've got this intel and so, right? What do you want me to do with it? And because it involved police officers and PDF files, I was told I had to hand write it. Okay, hand write it, and then I had to hand it over to the senior officer. Well, what happened to that information? Well, it got shredded. And I was told on no circumstance is it ever to go onto the system because it's too sensitive, right? And it's open to corruption. And I would hand it to the senior officer that I believe was part of it, and it never saw light of day. It just got shredded. And that's what I believe happened anyway, you know? So this is how they control it. But what they can't control is people like myself and Maggie and Lenny Harper and Mike Veal, years later, standing up saying, look, they're covering it up. And they've always covered it up. But
100%, John. And do you think they've just gotten smarter? I personally feel like there's been a downgrade in those who come to the police force. It seems like they're handpicking the yes men over the free thinkers, and it's a scary concept. Oh, you've muted yourself.
Sorry, someone called and it
that's all right.
It blocked it out. We need people to be speaking out now, but of course they then put clauses on the detectives and the officers that they're not allowed to say anything, and they will be subject to discipline if they leak this information. And then you've got contempt court issues and stuff like that, which ever stop it ever getting out. I just think that there is so much stigma around and question marks around this case that it needs to be reinvestigated. And what they can't do is have the same people that looked into it in the past having anything to do with it. They can't. It has to be looked at with totally new eyes. And
100%. Well, look, John, we've got our little call-in section. We've got a couple of people already waiting. So rather than keep them waiting, I just thought I'd drag Jane in, who would like to have a little word with you, if that's all right, brother.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
Jane, are you with us? You're live on the Shaun Attwood channel.
I think she just didn't.
I'll give you a minute, Jane.
Off you go.
Are you there, Jane?
Yeah. Oh, I'm here. Yeah, hold on. I'm just going to turn my telly off.
Okay.
Hiya.
How you doing, Jane?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Have you got a question or something you would like to put over to John or myself?
Yeah, I'm just going to put my sound on. Just
question marks around this case.
Yeah, Jane, you won't be able to have your sound on.
Sorry, I'll just turn my TV off a minute.
Yeah, Jane,
sorry.
I'm going to put you back in the other room. I'll let you get set up, and then I'll pull you back in. Are you ready just now?
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep. Hold on a sec. I can't hear you very well, and I have got the phone not the right way.
Okay. Well, then there's nothing I can do for you, Jane. I'm so sorry. I can't fix the tech problems at your end, sadly. I will pull you back in a minute, though.
Let me just hold on.
No, I'll put you back in there, and I'll bring in Uber. How we doing, Uber, mate? How are you tonight, mate? Are you there, bro?
Hello, mate. You all right?
I'm very well. You're live with me and John. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hello, John. How are you, mate?
Hello, good.
Oh, hang on, I'm getting.
What are you wanting to throw at us tonight, Uber?
Yeah, John, it makes total sense when you're talking about Dando when it's saying that you bring in foreign nationals because they're not on the system. So it makes complete sense, doesn't it? If anything was to go tits up, I mean pear shaped.
Yeah.
You know. And one thing I do want to ask you, a bit of a cheek, but I do body language and statement analysis. I'm just wondering, how important do you think it is for people to recognise body language and linguistics?
Yeah, I would say with statement analysis, it's very important.